All is the same, even though everything's changed. Social Democrats decide to go with conservative this time for the same reason, although more informed now, I guess, that they went for it initially. It comes with a lot of political points. With the levers of government in hand, I can use those political points to expend on rally bans, on army. The other advantage, once again, I get the fiscal austerity option if no one goes with it. The communists chose to go with socialism this time. Socialism's kind of a little different from the pro-labor. Notably, less points from the chart, assuming the same values. But I'm not going to be getting the extra propaganda points that the government got. So I feel like I'm going to need more political points to play with. I got my workers. Maybe I can eke something out that way. The center chose to go pro-labor. It's sort of a bigger risk option. If we take a look at the points, we're a little behind where the communists are. The communists are actually in the lead in total points. So if the communists can win this, they probably, it's almost assured, right? I think it is assured that they win the game. If the Social Democrats win this, they win the game 2 elections in a row. For the center, it's not that simple. I have to win it a little bigger. And so I'm going to go for a higher risk option of that pro-labor, which worked well for the communists in the last 2, honestly, but did not work too well for the center last time. Center was law and order on the first one. The nationalists were going to go with pro-labor as well. But then I realized, wait a minute, there's 2 problems with that. That means that there'll be 3 people fighting over the pie of the areas of the extra point, that comes from the areas that are more pro-labor. So I felt like I had to challenge the Social Dems. If I didn't do that, then I'm leaving it up to the Nazis to try to be the law and order conservative side of things, and I didn't think that would work well at all. They can go pro-labor or socialism. Wow, they can go all over the place. Fitting. But I rightly judge that they probably would just go for demagoguery because they're so far behind. It is about the only thing that can dig them out. They need to get either plus 30% or such a big win, or they need to get 30% of the electorate or such a big win that they exceed, they make that 30 extra points up, which is probably about the same thing. So they're going for a very high risk option here. Which means to me, I think the nationalists had to go with one of the top, with either conservative or law and order. I went with law and order instead of conservative. It's a little bit higher risk. And it does open up the possibility of him using fiscal austerity with an action and being able to say, I'm immune to anything. Well, other than thugs, but, Okay. So, with the rolls, the conservatives actually pulled maximum possible points off for their own political fund. They didn't give very much for the government propaganda. I'm still thinking about them a little bit, which is why I sound a little stunned. I'm a little COVID-y right now. And I rolled up other people, though. The Nazis got near maximum for their demagogue position in terms of political power. And they got a fair number as well of a near maximum number of brown shirts as well. The communists didn't do as well on their soldiery, but I think they did okay on their, they did pretty well in terms of the political power they pulled. Trying to think who is, so the interesting positions, if they win, they win. if they win this election, period. And they have all the levers. If the communists win, they probably win because they've scored the most points throughout. Anyone else may well have to do quite well. But the nationalists are the closest of the other players to being able to maybe pull off a victory that will put them over any other player out of the remaining powers. And because of this, and because they got a good roll from the law and order side, they bought themselves some street mobs. The thing I'm questioning is whether or not the Social Democrats, our government people, want to buy some guaranteed troops. It seems like a bum deal because I can get better than 1-for-1 by committing the army. The problem, of course, is I don't know how much better, but if I absolutely need like more than one unit or whatever, I can put more political points in to get a better roll in terms of how much army that I get for any given election. So I think I'm going to hold off on that for that. And then I guess we're ready to rock with what's becoming sort of my opening book, at least, which is, hey, let's get rid of the cards that I don't want to play in places where they're valuable and see what falls and what I can gain out of that. In this case, Versailles is kind of crappy. I have a lot of cash, but I want to use cash. I have enough cash I could put $3 on each election. But I would rather lowball my value to begin with and keep some cash to play rally bands, to call out the army, and the like, So I went with Versailles, which is sort of my shittiest of my cards, and didn't do terribly well. The communists got their social welfare. That got them a win there with a total of 9 points. And second place center, pro-labor, totaled 6. Again, another pick where Versailles and labor-type relation stuff is valuable. Made labor reform by both the communists and the center. The center got a nice set with 5. They spent some money on it. They got the win there. They're up at 15. The communists at 13. Nationalists and Nazis at 7. And social dems, they're burning through their garbage intentionally here. Being here is the kind of situation I expected from this game, which was that it would be very hard for anyone to win. And yes, there are people who have shots at winning. I think there's no question that both the communists and the Social Democrats are well poised to get a potential victory here. But there are 3 players who are going to try to prevent that. And yes, they're trying to pad their own, the Nazis and the nationalists certainly. The center honestly doesn't have much hope. But their total is pretty decent, but it's 4th place. They would kind of need to get 30% with very little cash. And maybe they should have just bought street agitators to prevent a win by anyone. When I played this previously, I was shocked by how easy it was for the Nazis to get their first victory. Not so much, hey, somebody's got to win it, and they've got a nice set if they get good rolls, etc. But to get their second election, just boom, boom, 2 in a row, and it was almost impossible. They steamrolled that second election. The first one, yeah, there were a lot of people who were kind of like just trying to score their own points, trying to get the win, whatever. But it doesn't matter what you do in the prior elections for the most part, until you get to the, hey, how did you do total over 3 elections if you won the third one, But yeah, it looked like the game would generally tie, or everyone would lose, which I see as worse. There's no real tie, but, I see that as worse than, say, a 2 or 3 way tie. I don't know. There's, in most games, because it's phrased as everyone loses, which is something, if you've watched my other videos on multiplayer games, you'd kind of understand. I see that as fundamentally the designer saying something worse. In this case, I don't think it is. You know, it's that you still have a pluralistic government going forward. I'm not sure that necessarily one party gaining dominance is the best thing for many of the parties. You could definitely argue, hey, you want, communists and Nazis definitely are looking to polarize the country and make it into that, remake the society in a certain way. But it's much more questionable about these more centrist parties, whether running up a long string of victories is necessarily good for them, the nation as a whole, whatever, as opposed to creating a more polarized situation. But again, I generally take that wording as meaning, yeah, everybody's done poorly. So if I look at Republic of Rome, everybody loses if Rome falls. Canadian Civil War, everybody loses if there's a national emergency and it doesn't, everybody loses except maybe some people. It's a worse situation for the people who lose the game than it is for people who didn't win the game. In this one, I don't feel that accurately expresses what the situation is for a lot of the political parties. Anyway, Babylon. The Social Democrats were able to throw their action in, going with a fiscal authority or austerity. Yeah, fiscal authority. Not enough to win it. Remember, bonus points don't count towards your winning the section, which I'm kind of iffy on that. My feeling is that it might be a more interesting game if your bonus point for this counted. It still wouldn't change most of the chart decisions. Like, you're better off picking your best topic even though you don't align with that area, which I find disturbing. I feel like if you're speaking to the area, that should count towards you getting the bonus for the province, and certainly taking action should include. So by getting that 2-point bonus, that would be a major deal. That would swing the fiscal austerity chart into something better than most of the charts that the Social Democrats, as conservatives with all those points that they have to play with, have. So instead of gaining 2, I would be gaining 4, which would still put me behind the winners here, which were the Pro-Labor Center with their 4+1, but, I wouldn't just be competing against their chart results. However, I was competing against their chart results. They took that. Everyone else, except for the communists, split the vote there and all got an extra point, it turned out. Yeah, we're looking at the center still in the lead at 23. The communists losing some ground, really. Screwed up with the Nazis, going with demagogue. They went with their big lie here and threw a bucket. In a way, this is sort of a surprise move. You might be able to slip some points in before the rally bans and stuff like that can come into play. But the problem is you start making your vote look good, and you start looking like a target for rally bans, for for the communist workers attacking. So this was probably a mistake. It's a little place. Even if I won kind of big, I wouldn't gain that much off of it. I probably would have been better off taking a shot with New Order. My other ones give me bonuses in some states, so I'd rather hold on those. Election play. The Nationalists end up winning it. They went with justice and put their money in. Pomerania, another fiscal austerity, same action play there. The Communists actually took second with only 2 points. Cheap buy, basically doubling their points off of it. Well, more than doubling because it's also aligned. So they were able to get a Versailles off that got them 5 points total. That's pretty cool. But the center's still in the lead with its, it had jumped out there. Nazis went with New Order and did not get anything off of it. If you're not willing to spend, those charts are painful to do. I do want to get rid of my New Orders, though. I only have a limited amount of money. I'm going to be spending that on the big lie. Which, may mean that I'm like doing things like anti-red where I can and stuff like that, just to try to get some padding, because I don't have a lot of political capital available. I'm checking because I'm worried about my socialists. They closed out Versailles. I think I'm a little confused here. I'm not sure what happened. This is the 5th, and I need to look at what they did. They did SWLR jobs. They should have 2 Versailles, yeah. They did jobs up here. 2 Versailles. I think I missed their jobs in the center. Oh no, they got 2 jobs. 2 jobs, 2 Versailles. Yeah, no, they're fine. It's the communists I'm worried about here. 2, 3, 4 only. So the communists did... I want to talk about this, but I don't want to be dealing with this shit right now. They did SWLR. They should have, I think, 2 jobs. Versailles, I've got those. SWLR. Here we go. SWLR. Jobs Versailles. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, no, they're fine. I just want to make sure everybody's got 5 things down, because everybody has been filling out their blanks on this crap. Okay, so the Chancellor chose Mecklenburg, went with anti-red, threw some bucks in, didn't do an action or anything like that. Good move, because the Nazis haven't fired off their anti-reds yet. But the winner here was the Nationalists, who threw some cash in on a Justice, which also links in there. However, the Social Dems got 2nd place, and we actually have a tie between the center and the Nationalists now. Problem for the conservative-leaning Social Dems. Yeah, they don't sound like they should be conservative, but whatever. The non-communist, non-Nazi parties are pretty much capable of going the span of normal programs. They can't go socialist, and they can't go demagoguery. Okay. Here's where my problem comes to. I'm looking for other anti-red locations because I want to burn my last one. Bavaria, that's got Justice. Justice is my best thing. East Prussia is a 4-pointer with Justice. I may want to burn my anti-red somewhere else, but it's not that much worse a chart than the Justice chart. So I think I'll go into East Prussia, but it's a hard call in this case. So this was kind of complex. Social Democrats have a lot of bucks, so they're spending even on non-priority stuff like their anti-red, which is a little worse than their Justice, but it's okay. I got bucks. Ended up getting a total of 4+ bonus on that. The communists actually played their labor reform here. They're having trouble finding a place where their second labor reform works, because they've got social welfare linked with labor reform everywhere. So I chose to blow this here. Could have gone here instead, but why not, play bigger in the places where we can get bigger bonuses. Labor reform as well for the center, but that's their best thing, and they throw a buck in towards it. The Nationalists continuing to throw some money at the problem, again going anti-red. and the Nazis went anti-red. The Nazis didn't do very well. They're not very good at anything other than their demagoguery special stuff. I mean, as long as you're doing demagoguery, you really are going to be making your points off the big lie. But we ended up with a three-way tie at 4 each, and now the points the nationalists have crept ahead a little bit because why? Because they got the bonus where the center did not. With the move to Hanover, we can see that some of the big money is starting to come out. People are spending $2-3 in mass across this. Why? Well, justice. It's my good thing. I got tons of money. I'm going to start running my justice score up. Well, I got a total of 3 for it. Not a good payoff. Communists filling out their jobs? No, just getting a bonus there, I think. They must have been filling it out. 2, 4, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they were filling out their jobs. Make sure they get that done. The center played a social welfare, which matches here. Social welfare is not their best thing. Their best thing is labor reform, but this is their next best. Yeah, because they're pro-labor. The nationalists went with justice as well with a big payoff, and they did quite a bit better. They got a good roll, getting 6 score there, but that didn't win because the big lie with a couple of bucks pulled in 12 and picked up a Nazi state. Now, in terms of overall victory points, though, the Nazis are still in last place. The nationalists are well ahead of everyone except maybe the center. From a larger state, Saxony spent some big money. Was hoping other people wouldn't, but people are kind of being a little freer with their cash this time. I don't know. So Social Dems going with justice, which isn't a match. Well, they only picked up 3. What we ended up having was a 3-way tie between the communists using their social welfare matches, the nationalists using justice, which doesn't match, and the Nazis using the big lie. And that got us to 52 on the nationalists, followed by 43 with the center. No bonus points because of the 3-way tie. They share all 3. They shared 9 points, 3 points each. Democrats continue putting their war chest into races with justice, in order to boost their points as much as possible. Just kind of going for I want to get a lot of points everywhere and build up a nice nest egg. Well, it's not working terribly well so far. Indeed, what we had was the big lie scoring big in the Rhineland and getting us up to 50, which is not quite first place. The nationalists are still, a little ahead. However, the second place went to the communists here, who also got a big vote off theirs. They're able to throw some cash in. Unlike the center, they have money to play with, and that's kind of the big difference. Is how well did you roll on your political funds? How good do you look going into the election? And so it's kind of a pretty tight race, which is a hell of a scary thing because the Nazis have the capacity, if they can keep up spending and getting good rolls, etc., to make some good score. It is up to the government to prevent that. But throwing rally bans or whatever. But the government is kind of in last place right now. Would like to win. So they don't want to expend too much on the Nazis. They want to prevent the Nazis from getting a victory. They want to get their own victory. And so far, they're behind so many people. Nationalists haven't filled out their card yet. They played a Versailles here. They've got an anti-red they want to burn somewhere. They really don't want to burn that in Bavaria, so they're probably looking at like Thuringia as the location that's like the cheap place. Now, the problem with Thuringia is that's a justice location, so the Social Dems are kind of holding off on it. Even though it's not worth a lot, they're planning on scoring some points there and looking a little better after they come out of it. So they're kind of playing for the things that don't really work terribly well for them, which we're running out of. Brandenburg. Brandenburg's fucking big, and Silesia. Those are the two. that are remaining. We'll probably go into Silesia next. The problem with Brandenburg is it's worth so many damn points. Fortunes turned significantly in Silesia. Big money spent everywhere, but the center got a nice roll and got themselves, I don't know, a whole bunch of points. Like 13 points. Bringing them up to 59 in the lead. The communists, coming in second, jumped up to second place at 47. And then we've got the nationalists and Nazis who have fallen behind again. And the Social Dems, of course, still trying to sandbag this. They know they can make a lot of points at the end. The big lie with a couple of propaganda points crapped out. It only got them one point in there. It's a very risky thing to have up there, but it generates the most points on average. The counter, the difficulty in it though is it is susceptible to rally bans. The Nazis are the most susceptible party to them. You throw in a little bit of money and you can just shut them down. And they got a little bit of money. Thuringia and the expenditures are less. Social Democrats still throwing their money around, but other people are starting to see, hey, I can't really afford to do much. On the bright side, everybody filled out their card, their dance card. At this point, that would be the nationalists. No, the center threw their social welfare in, which isn't a bad pick for them, but they don't have the cash to support picks anymore until they get to the bigger ones. And the Nazis threw the new order in. They crapped out with a point. And the center also crapped out. The big winner here, the communists, and they are now the leader, with the nationalists and center fairly close behind. The Nazis creeping forward. Social Democrats doing a little better, but still in last place. They're screwed up. By filling out their card here, they could have done a labor reform there and done the social welfare here. I didn't realize there wasn't a labor reform there. There's a fucking Versailles there for all that's worth. So we kind of crapped out. Okay, what else? Well, fair payments going out. The communists feel like they're getting a little low on money, but the other players are all going in big, except for the center, which is broke. Social Democrats not happy with the results. They got a third place finish using their biggest card in an area where it's bonused and with $3 on it. That's not promising given their position. Nationalists did pretty well. They got a good roll, getting themselves a fair amount of points, but the big lie kicked in. Maximum points with the $3 thing, rolled a 6 on it, 15 points, that puts them up to 71. They are now, let me see. They are now in second place, and it's a really close race. Nationalists 72, Nazis 71, Communists 70. And then we drop down into the mid-60, mid-50 for the next two. And the center's pretty much tapped out. They are really unlikely to be able to win unless like some kind of horrible dogfight happens. And they don't have any toys to play with, they just have some money. Down to the end of the race, and things are starting to look ugly here in Saxony. Nazis call out the stormtroopers and throw them against the communists and the nationalists, the two people who are closest for them, and they get a big roll on the big lie and score themselves a win in Saxony, putting them way in the lead. Behind them, well, the nationalists picked up a few points. The center gained some good points there, coming in tied for second with the Social Democrats, who are, you know, kind of lagging. And then the communists and the nationalists, well, the communists down with the nationalists in the center. The Social Democrats are still in last place, but they have the tools, but that's a lot of points to make up right now. They're 20 points behind the Nazis. Can we make that much up? I don't know. Not unless we shut the Nazis down, I would say. And this is the thing. This is where, like, it's got to happen. And I think we're down to 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 2 more provinces left. We got Bavaria, where we do not expect to do terribly well. And Brandenburg, where we're hoping we'll have enough money to play hard. And for the last election, for the Bavarian election, second to last actually. Oh wait, I got Hesse-Nassau. That hasn't been done yet. Why did I go in here? Geez. Wow, I think people spent more money, more resources than I was counting on because I thought I was on second to last. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. What's going on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There should be 15 states. What did I do? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I think there are actually 16 states, not 15. Unless somebody drifted. Yeah. I may have been leaving a state out of each election because the rules say there's 15. I think there's 16. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. How about that? I bet you I screwed up every election so far. But this one I screwed up in concept. Nazis threw a bunch of brown shirts out, thinking this was second to last. Hey, let's just shut it down. And that would be great and everything. Except the government banned them. $4 for the Nazis means they'll get a 5 or better. And they're just shut down. So they get no votes. Their thugs don't count. Nothing can be done about them. That means the 5 workers that the communists threw out there didn't do anything. They were there to protect the communists. But we got our votes out. So I haven't scored the votes yet, but first place is split between the Social Democrats and the Center. And I feel completely screwed up by the fact that there are 16 states and not 15. I believe the rules say 15. After those finishes, and yeah, we'll have to go do Hesse-Nassau, but I feel really screwed because I think each other time I've done... The rules do say 15 in multiple places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And 15, yeah. So I've been leaving a state out each time. And it's very easy to not be able to see a state. So that's kind of interesting to realize. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to just... Yeah, I mean, it seems stupid to leave it out now that I know it. But on the other hand, everybody was planning on there being one more election after this. Anyway. That kind of, I don't know if it seals the Nazis' fate or not, because the Social Democrats spent all their money based on this. The Nazis spent all their resources based on it. It's almost like this is going to be kind of a gimme to someone. So the points at the end of this, after the victory, the Nazis are still in the lead at 88. The Center's up to 85. They're one of the ones who won this. The Nationalists at 83. And then we have 76 for the Communists and Social Democrats. The thing, the votes on this election, I think, are tight enough that it's going to be really hard for anyone to win other than the Social Democrats, who if they win, they just win. Or, let's look at the next points, the Communists, who are at, it looks like 184 ahead. So these are really the 2 players I'm most worried about, and they're in the worst places. I don't think that the Nazis can win, even if they win the election. I just don't think there's enough points available. However, maybe there is. The big lie can generate ridiculous amounts of points. Taliban succeeded this time, only $2 on it. Ended up shutting down the Nazis again, and so they're stuck at 8-8. That would be a fitting number. And let's see, what else do we have? So the victory went to the Communists. And without any propaganda on them. But the lead is currently the center at 92, followed by the Nationalists at 90, followed by the Communists at 89, and then 88 for the Nazis. And the Social Democrats creeping up within range. If they can use their tools effectively, they still have a stockpile of cash and get a good roll or whatever. They might be able to slip this victory out. Remember, they're the ones who can get it with nothing. Although, if the Communists get the win, they also get it because they're in the lead across the board. So, getting the lead, getting a win means getting the lead, and they already have the lead, so they'll be able to keep it. I don't think anybody else is close enough to have a chance, and the scores are just too close. Final election. The Social Democrats are trying to ban every other party in Brandenburg. Let's see how that works, because that'll neutralize things. But we've got, street fighters out there, the communists protecting themselves, hitting the Nazis hitting the communists, protecting themselves, the other way around. The nationalists hitting the Social Democrats and the communists, because those are the two who can win, and we're convinced we can't win the game as the nationalists. The Nazis are just like, I can get so many points, maybe I'll get 30%, who cares? Or, yeah, I'm way behind in last place. So, we shall see. But I don't think the Nazis, I think the Nazis are just being crazy, which is fitting. So, let's take a look at who gets knocked out. The Nazis are at, that's $2, so they're at +1, so I need a 4 or better to knock them out. They're out of it, so I am just going to leave them in place there. The communists, I got +2 on them. That means I need a 5 or better. The communists are hard to knock out. They're not going to be gone, so I'll just leave that money there for no reason. And now these others, I need a 6 on them. So the nationalists, I don't knock out. This was kind of the only path for victory. And the center, I do knock the center out. So the center and the Nazis are just not going to participate in Brandenburg. Knocking the Nazis out, we ended up not having as many people beating on the communists. The communists are still playing. The 3 points that were put against them by the nationalists were canceled out by their own forces. And therefore, they got a decent die roll, getting the same amount of points as the Social Democrats, splitting first place. I forgot about second place. Let's take a quick look. Second place is only going to be 3 votes. So this 95 is 98. All right, so first place actually went to the communists. They had the highest total at 184, right? Yeah, with no one else that high. So by winning this election, the communists win the game. It didn't have to end up that way. There were people throwing stuff at the communists. The Nazis might have been able to drop their points down so that they did not get a tie with the Social Democrats getting half of the Brandenburg election. But by the way that the Social Democrats kind of handled their rally bans and where they were successful, where they weren't, even though they threw the most into the communists, they weren't able to prevent them. Had they thrown everything into the communists, well, maybe the Nazis would have gotten enough votes. This looked like the best chance I had of winning, and honestly, I came not far. I got second place. If that rally ban on the communists had worked, it would have been first place. But, you can kind of look at it. The nationalists didn't come far. In fact, that is 98. I got third place. So yeah, I needed to get all the rally bans basically. Did I? I don't know. Because I only got 7 points for this. I would have gotten 3 more points. That would put me up to 96. That's not really going to do it. I'm just thinking maybe if I had boosted my propaganda a little higher. But it was a nice, tight, close game. I'm kind of pleased there was a winner, because again, I'm constantly worried that like this game will devolve into nobody wins, because it would have been reasonably possible to prevent the communists from winning. And this is where, to some extent, the theory, the decision between how to read that, everybody loses versus I didn't win, what that means. Is it a worse situation for the communists to have won than for the political chaos to remain? I think so. So I kind of think that that I'm kind of disturbed that this has an everybody loses scenario in it, which to me generally is used in games where the result of that everybody loses is not we all tied. I would much prefer if they had said no one wins. Because honestly, I think for the most part, a victory in this game is probably a loss for the other players. Not, again, I'm not trying to get the, well, you didn't win the game, you lost. To me, that's like, you got the silver medal, you lost. I mean, no. There's something else in place here. And I don't feel like, I feel like the communists getting a victory, a real solid victory, is actually a pretty bad thing for almost everyone else. Maybe the center, since they've been kind of pro-labor all the time, you often eat your closest neighbors. So I don't know. Anyway, I had surprisingly more fun with this than I thought I was going to. Both, on a number of levels. So some of it was wow, this is a game where, you're making all these hidden decisions, and then, there's some randomness thrown in. But compare it to something like Kremlin, for example, where the solo play really is just no fun, I did it a few times. Some of it may be the fact that I never got to play this sucker solo. And me playing a game solo makes me happier than only playing it opposed. Like, I just feel like I get something different from a game solo than I do opposed. Because I do remember, like, first time I played Diplomacy solo, first time I played Kremlin solo, I think I had a boost and a happiness to those games that I haven't had since, or at least I don't have now after I've played those games more often. But yeah, another factor to it is, this isn't sort of a pure point bidding game like Kremlin, or a pure secret move game like Diplomacy, where I have to kind of throw dice in to make things. I was making all my decisions just kind of freeform. I almost never roll dice to make decisions, because there's dice over here. So, I'm just trying to make reasoning about it. Yes, sometimes there are things that you have to make rolls for. I felt like in the third election, I made less than I did maybe in the first and second, where I didn't feel like I had as good a grasp on what the different players were trying to do. So I was being I felt like I was more likely to be led astray by somebody else's decision. But I know I made a decision with the nationalists, whether or not to throw defense in or use they only had five street gangs, so they weren't gonna be able to get a lot. All right, I'll come back with an actual review in a bit, but I gotta swap batteries and load this up.